plugged into the Social Plug Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Martinez, and you are plugged in to the Social Plug Podcast, where we connect you to level up. We are powered by Social Plug Media, and on this podcast, we discuss ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We are at the Greenleaf Studio here at the beautiful Greenleaf Health and Wellness Center located in New Braunfels, Texas. This place is outstanding. Today's podcast is sponsored by Double Shots Sports Bar and Grill, also in New Braunfels, Texas. This is not your average sports bar. It all started as a backyard barbecue conversation between a few friends. Double Shots comes from a deep community root and a need to serve the neighborhood. Together, Austin, JP, and Katie have decades of experience navigating the industry and have a desire to create a New Braunfels bar like no other. You can find them at Fryheit Village in New Braunfels or at doubleshots.com. J-Rock, what's going on, my friend?
What up, brother? Hey, man, you're finally back from vacation, man.
I just said a mouthful, man.
I was about to say,
I'm
bro,
over here
you're
out of breath.
Trouble there, man.
I'm like, hold on. Because I did some push-ups. I did some running before, right?
Yeah.
I'm drinking my water.
You said that in the back.
And I'm like, holy shit, man.
You said it in some past episodes, too. You said we do push-ups and squats, and, you know, we have a... we have an athlete in the house.
Dude, my lungs feel like they're an 85-year-old man. I'm over here trying to make sure my voice is keeping up with all this stuff, man. So you're looking good. You got the new hat on.
Yeah, I was about to say, bro, liking the new swag here, bro. Like your new red hat too, bro. I was about to talk about that.
You look very sharp. So, you got the sunglasses.
Yeah.
You still trying to grow that mustache out?
I don't know what's going on, bro. It's been taking me years. I think we're on 15 right now.
maybe one day we can get you the little handlebars.
Yeah, something, man. We're gonna have to get some glue. Don't forget the glue though when we do that. All right.
Yeah. So during Halloween, you always got a big mustache, don't you?
Do I?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, what are you talking about? I didn't know where that joke was going.
So we talked about ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
That's right.
And our special guest does a lot of freaking amazing things, man. Extraordinary and above, man. So this is Jen Hardy from thejenhardy.com.
Jen Hardy. Hey, I did some research on you the other day. You did a lot. I like your website, by the way.
Thank you.
It's good stuff.
I appreciate that.
So we both did a lot of research on you, and I also had the privilege of attending one of your classes, and we'll get into that.
Yes.
That's when I first met you. Very motivational. You had us doing some fitness breathing. You had us doing all kinds of stuff, and I loved it. So it was so pleasing to my mind that I looked you up after. I said, Jen, we got to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Is it like some woosah stuff? Like you grab the ears and like woosah?
Basically, yeah.
So Jen, you're an entrepreneur.
I am.
You're a motivational speaker and empowerment coach.
Yes.
Specifically, you empower women.
Yes.
But you empower everybody.
Empower everybody. Well, and it's funny. I'm like, oh boy, you did research, and a lot of things have changed in like a month.
There you go.
Things should always be changing.
It should be. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I was actually told Johnny this last night. I was researching her, and she made like a big jump, and I liked it. Like you can tell from like the beginning of you were starting your speaking, and then you're doing all these big events now. So I don't know if that's correct, but it just seemed like from social media that's kind of where it's at.
Absolutely. Yeah. This last year really has just been kind of like out the door and on the stage and all the things. But I was definitely focused primarily on women there for almost 3 or 4 years. And then very recently, like literally a month, 6 weeks at most, a good friend of mine and I have actually partnered our businesses together with Motive Action. So it's Academy of Motive Action, and it's more focusing on business owners or seasoned leaders, anyone who has teams, smaller teams, where we can really empower those leaders, right? Because employees don't kill businesses.
The leaders do. The leadership
Managers do. Not even leaders, right? Managers kill businesses. Leaders make it thrive.
So what's the difference between a manager and a leader?
What do you think is the difference between
I think a manager just kind of oversees. That's a great
really
question.
Good question, yeah.
So managers, to me, just kind of oversee the daily operations. They're kind of micromanagers. They just want to make sure things are getting done. They're production people, just, making sure they're over here writing down stuff. But leaders are the ones that empower you, and they motivate you, and they inspire you to get the job done.
Yep.
So the employees aren't inspired by the managers. The managers just kind of there. They're just kind of like figureheads. but the leader makes you want to come into work. You want to get out of bed and go work for whoever this leader is.
Yep.
And that's what I see. When I was in the military, I saw there's managers and there's leaders. And in life, out here in the public sector, there's managers and leaders. And a lot of people just don't understand the difference.
Yep.
They think that this manager is their boss, whatever. But no, I mean, it's kind of in a way, they're just the boss.
Yep.
But when I go work for somebody else, I want to make sure that I'm inspired and they give me all the tools that I need to be successful on my own. Leaders create other leaders.
Absolutely. Yeah. Leaders don't say you did it wrong. They say, how can we do this differently next time?
Yep.
Right. They're not looking to point a finger. They're not looking for who's responsible. They're looking at how do we do this differently next time?
Right.
This isn't working for the system as a whole, the entirety. Right. So, and they recognize responsibility way
Right.
more. Right? Like a leader will realize, like, okay, this is on me. I didn't
Right.
communicate, which is a big one, right? Or I didn't see this. I didn't recognize this. It was right under my nose. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. That's on me. Let's have a conversation. Let's move it forward. Whereas managers are just like, it's an employee's fault. We need to get rid of them and get someone else.
Yep.
A leader recognizes that it strolls downhill.
So you hit it on the head. You said there's managers and leaders, but there's a huge difference. And you said a lot of companies don't make it, okay, because of the leadership or lack of.
Because we say employees don't kill businesses.
Right.
Managers do. Leaders make it thrive. Right. But most people want to look at the base level, right?
Right.
Most people want to look at the employees. And I'm like, no. You need to go to the top because it's all rolling downhill.
So even the cashier, let's just put it in a restaurant perspective. The cashier at the front, if they're not giving you the customer service, do you blame them? Sure, you can. It's easy to.
Yeah.
But the leaders and the managers have set the expectation of what customer service is supposed to be like.
Absolutely. And they're actually exuding those properties. They're being that person, right? You're not just do this, do that, do this. It's I'm going to be it as well.
Right.
They are an example of what they expect of people.
Yep.
People don't like to follow people who aren't of integrity of their own requests. Dylan talked about that a lot at the last training, right? It's like, yeah, how do I do what you're telling me to do if you don't even do it?
Right. So what Dylan talked about at that session, and that's Dylan Shively. We had him on episode 4, I believe. The guy's just a badass as well. Yeah. So he said, as parents, if you tell your kid go clean your room, and they go see your room and it's a mess, how can what example are you setting?
Yeah.
And the same thing goes in work. Same thing goes in life. Same thing goes in everything, because you are representing yourself in a certain light. Like if you call yourself a community leader or somebody who does this, goes above and beyond. But when they look at you and how you're presenting yourself, you're like, how can I follow that guy or that gal? It just doesn't make sense. Kids are the same way, and employees are the same way as well.
Absolutely.
What do you think about people that say, do as I say, not as I do?
Those are managers, right?
I heard that a lot growing up. So
I think that's a cop-out.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. And it's like, well, if you want me to do better, right, then like you should be doing better also. It doesn't mean that, and it's not that you actually do, right? It's not about whether or not you reach the destination. We hear this all the time, right? It's not about being perfect by any means. It is about making the effort. It is about making the intention. And it's definitely about taking responsibility when you don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you often see a lot of people not take responsibility? J-Rock, do you see that?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Often?
Yeah.
I'm
like in coaching.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's like what's really cool about what I got, Jen, I've been coaching for 18 years, about to go 19 in November. Started coaching when I was young. But a lot of these kids, like when I first started coaching, like I was balling every day. I was playing balls out there doing drills with them. And as I gotten older, it's got a little harder, but I still can do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I gained a lot of respect out of those kids is they're like, man, coach, I always tell them, no, you're not going to outshoot me. Like, you're not going to outshoot me. You better get to work because you're not going to outshoot me. And then, I kind of, that's something I definitely work on still to make sure, because that can't get away. But yeah, no, I feel that a lot of, I'm big on you have to show. Yeah. You have to show it. And that's why, hopefully I can coach for another 10 years. But I think that's a part of me too. Like if I feel like if I can't show it and then teach it, like I feel like I'm not doing my part,
Yeah.
So.
I used to say to because I also was a teacher and a coach for 12 years. I coached varsity soccer for 12 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
She won a championship.
I did.
Yeah.
I
Like
did win a championship.
like for like your high school, the high school?
Yeah, as a coach, we won a state title.
State, there you go. Okay, nice.
yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I used to always say, though, I will never ask you to do something that I wouldn't do or that I can't do. That went well until I hit 30-something. And then it was like, okay, I got to stop saying that because I can't do that anymore.
That's what I love. Hey, that's what I love about Vince McMahon, Johnny. You see Shane McMahon and all these guys do these big old prompts and stunts. He did them too. As a matter of fact, he'd do them before they would do them, sometimes as well. So that's what I love about
You gotta, if you
Vince
walk
McMahon.
the walk, you gotta, or if you talk the talk, you better walk that damn walk.
Hell yeah, that's right.
But coming
man.
back to what you said about responsibility, like, do we see people out there not taking responsibility? I'm like, we live in America.
We see it so often. These. So we talk about these kids being entitled. These adults are often entitled.
Well, we just said, right, where does shit rolls downhill?
Yeah.
If it's not the employees, it's the manager, it's the owner, it's the leader. Well, y'all, your leader's in your family.
Yes.
So if your kids aren't doing what you expect, you need to look in the mirror.
So I'm one of those, when I see these unruly kids out in restaurants or wherever, we see a lot of stuff on the news, looting and all this kind of crap going on. It starts at home because these kids know right from wrong. If you're at least 15, 16, and right from wrong is subjective. All right, let's think about that.
Totally.
What I think is right and wrong in my house, somebody else might think is complete. Like, you do that with your kids? I don't. That's so wrong.
Absolutely.
But overall, people know the law. Don't steal. Don't pass stop signs and stoplights, traffic lights, and don't be hitting people. We know basic shit, right?
Right.
But some people, they're just unruly and they're not held accountable. Okay, and whether you're in a restaurant and you're a shitty employee or a shitty leader, whatever, people aren't getting held accountable enough. And today it's unpopular to hold somebody accountable. Sometimes what I see, even in the military, it was the person that's holding people accountable that gets held accountable. How crazy is that? Do you see that in a lot of things going on?
I mean, yeah, definitely when there's, and I think that it's just this cycle that happens, right? Where like someone's looking for someone to blame is the problem. Versus turning around and looking at like, okay, how did I create this?
Right.
I mean, that's the world I live in. That's what we do in our coaching. It's what we do in our group programs. It's what we do in our immersive programs. It's what we'll do with our podcast, right? It actually was wrapped up in the statement. Brendan Bouchard is a life coach that's really popular out there, right? And he said it like everybody's heard the Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility, right? But flip that. With great responsibility comes great power. And I was like,
Mind blown.
because I talk about responsibility all the time, all the time. Like that is the step to empowerment. That's the step, because when you're willing to take responsibility for your life, what's happening the way you want and what's happening the way you don't want, and all of it, when you're 100 in communication, like all those things, like life starts to turn around. Life starts to be what you expect it to be. Or when it's not, you can recognize like, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
Right? So but it's scary. Like people see responsibility as this terrifying thing to take on. In reality, like it's the thing to do. It gives you your life back, man. And I think that's part of my mission, is to share with people, like, you want your life back? Start taking responsibility.
Responsibility and accountability. Those two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I'm always a self-actualization guy. I'm always assessing myself. If something goes wrong, I sit there, and we talked about this with Dylan as well. I sit there and, how could I have done that different? Did I do this right? Did I offend this person? Was I too weak in this situation? Was I too strong? So I'm always realizing that I always put the blame on myself first. How could I have done better?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's good that I do that, but I think I have a strong willingness to always try to exceed standards, and always try to course correct myself.
Yep.
Because I think when people realize that they're the ones that did something wrong, I think it makes it easier on everybody else. But there's a lot of people who don't do that.
No.
And you mentioned something earlier. Life is about decisions. So when I say decisions and accountability, those two can't go hand in hand. If you make a bad decision, hold your ass accountable. I mean, it's a simple concept, but people can't do it. Either they're too macho, their ego's too big, or I'm not gonna apologize. So they're willing to sacrifice an entire business, an entire company, or in a relationship. Husbands and wives, I see that a lot too. the husband is too macho or the wife has too much of an ego and they don't communicate and they don't admit they're wrong, and then all hell breaks loose. Divorce happens next.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I would say like there's a pitfall to responsibility, right? And it's kind of what you said, although I don't think it's necessarily where you're going with it, but it's where a lot of people go, which is instead of pointing the finger at everybody else and like trying to put it's your fault, their fault, the government's fault, right? And we start to bring it inward, but then the pitfall is that people start pointing the finger completely at themselves. It's my fault. Oh God, I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't have that. I'm bad. I'm wrong. And it's like, whoa, like slow down a minute, right? And that's, it's finding the responsibility in the gray areas without it becoming this weighted jacket that you carry around of like, I messed up and I'm bad, you know, because it does boil down to I don't want to look bad and I want to look good. That's what it boils down to, like generally speaking. But it's how do you take responsibility but also acknowledge like you're growing. There's nothing to like, you don't have to hold it like this heavy weight that we tend to do, right? Like just how I say it is like most people look at morality and they think this has got to be right or it's got to be wrong or it's got to be good or it's got to be bad. It's got to be black. It's got to be white. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. And I'm like, why do we have to have this dichotomy of only one option? Why can't it be it just doesn't work?
Right.
Because integrity, if you look at the second definition of integrity, has to do with wholeness. And so instead of saying is this right, wrong, good, bad, blah, 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 it's like, no. Does this work? Does this work for you? Does this work for me? Does this work for everybody involved?
It's so subjective. Everybody has a different perspective, and it's so subjective.
Yeah.
And I always look at myself first, but then I analyze, and I'm like, no, she was completely out of line, or he was out in left field. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You don't want to put everything on yourself because then you start deteriorating mentally, and then you're out of commission.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it boils down to communication, right?
Right.
I mean, that's my favorite topic is communication, because when it comes to starting to take responsibility and, you know, you start to bring it in, but then you're like, well, okay, I don't want to take all of that on, then it does come down to communication, right? You said, that, okay, well, she was way out of line and he came out of left field. Well, instead of all of a sudden being like, well, she was out of line and that came out of left field, it's like, okay, hey, this was my interpretation of how this went. Like, what happened for you? And like, how can we like do this differently next time? Right? And having those conversations. And that's what I mean by responsibility is like, okay, see that side, see this one and that one and all of the above. And let's have a conversation about it.
That's called maturity.
I know. I'm like, why don't people have more conversations?
That's called maturity. And that's why you're a coach, Jen.
Yeah.
That's going to go away a lot pretty soon.
Yes.
Conversations. Because these kids nowadays, they do not want to talk to each other.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
They do
They
not.
don't even know
And that's
how.
a problem. That too. I mean, I want to blame COVID, but at the same time, like even before then, like these kids, all they want to do is just be on their phone all day long, and you know, and it's super tough. You know, I have better conversations with a lot of my basketball kids through text than, you know, face to face, and it's kind of sad sometimes. And I'm like, kid, like, talk, man, you know. And I'm gonna make fun of one of my kids too. I was trying to coach him up. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what did you like? And it wasn't a situation where he was like talking back to me. Like it was just like, you know, the way he was trying to respond. And I'm like, dude, quit mumbling, like talk. And he's just like, and he's talking, and his mom was right there. She goes, thank you. I'm not the only one, you know. And she's like, he always does it, like as if we know what he's thinking, type stuff. But yeah, no, the conversation's getting tough. So, but I got a question for you, Jen. I was looking at your Facebook and stuff. It looks like you've always been very motivating, and you've always kind of seemed like you're in front of a camera. You look very comfortable.
Yeah.
What brought that out of you? Like, what made you get started in wanting to motivate, and then what made you so comfortable being in front of a camera?
Oh, well, that's definitely not always been the case. I mean, I was the mumbly child. I was not only the mumbly child, but I was terrified of public speaking.
Really?
Yeah, for a very long time. But through a lot of personal work and a lot of personal development, having my own coach, doing my own programs, I realized it had nothing to do with fear of speaking. It had to do with fear of actually being heard. Actually being heard, right?
Like was your opinion or whatever worthy of
do I have
or did it have
anything
merit?
valuable to say? Like, am I worth being heard? And you know, what if I say something that people disagree with and they reject me and persecute me? And it's taken a lot of work. And y'all, this is as little as 6 years ago, PS.
Yeah.
To be where I am right now. And being a teacher and a coach kind of forced me into that, right? It's so funny. Sometimes that thing that we dealt with as a kid that was the hardest for us, sometimes we turn that into our vocation. I don't know if anybody else realizes that. But like terrified of public speaking, and then what did I do every day? I public speak to little people who want to make you wrong all the time, right? And they're like, I can't spell to save my life, and I had to like write on a whiteboard because we didn't have computers yet. So like constantly being like, oh God, I'm probably misspelling. So I'd have to learn to just be like, I'm gonna misspell things, so just tell me if it happens. But that kind of thrust me into having to figure it out, because now I am responsible for the lives of young people, and they matter to me, and I want them to be heard and seen and known. I think my desire and motivation to empower actually started with kids, and it was watching kids not be heard, seen, and known. I had that experience as a child, not feeling heard, seen, and known, not because I had crappy parents by any means, but just not having that feeling. And so I think as a coach, like that was something that I really focused on, was making sure my athletes felt heard and seen and known. Eventually, it's not where I started, by the way, when I stopped making it about me. And it just made all the difference in the success that we had. And I kept getting feedback of like that being something I was good at, and I would just reject. And I finally stopped rejecting it. But I had to leave teaching and coaching as a public educator to find out that I'm a teacher and a coach. Like, this is what I do. This is who I am. But I believe it's like anything, right? When your question was also about like being comfortable in front of the camera, being comfortable on stage. Courage is a skill. And I don't think people realize that. They think people are just born being able to speak in front of people. People are just born being able to be a leader in the military. People are just born jumping out of planes and being okay with it, right? And it's like, no, courage is learned.
Right.
Every time you do something that freaks you out, it gets easier. You overcome it more and more. So it was more like, okay, I just have to start speaking. I have to start introducing myself as a speaker, and I have to just start doing the things. And the more you do the things, the less it gets scary. It's like jumping out of a plane. The first time you do it, it's like, what the fuck am I doing? And then after that, it's like, woo, let's go. Right?
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
So I think teaching kids is pretty tough, especially today.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's tougher today because you mentioned it earlier, J-Rock. They're always on their phones, right? And you mentioned communication as one of your best topics. So how do you communicate with these youngsters today? I mean, I have a few options that I do to communicate, but some kids don't listen to me. Even my own kids. They think that somebody else has the answers when I have all the answers for them right in front of them.
No, you don't, Dad. Right? No, you don't.
Or like I'm giving them some advice on relationships or how to deal with their teacher or how to deal, and they're like, okay. So I can see it going in one ear and out the other. But then they see somebody else, or they get this idea from somebody else, and that's it.
Cold.
I'm like, shit, that's just what I've been telling you for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So do you see that these kids listen to you, or do you think that they just kind of blow you off? I mean, I know it's all subjective too. There's so many variables.
Absolutely.
But at what point did you see that you were really making an impact and a difference in these kids?
When I started to shut up and ask more questions.
You were a listener.
I stopped assuming I had the answers. Because we tend to give the answers to not the problem.
Tell us about that.
We make a lot of assumptions. I mean, we as humans, we're very selfish, so we're very mind reading, and we're very much making an assumption that a text message is a great example. I mean, how many times have you read a text message and you're like, and it's based on whatever conversation you had with that person last. And then you make all these assumptions, and you're like, what are they talking about?
Asshole.
Yeah. And then you find out later, like, none of the above, none of the above, whatever it might have been. But
did they put an exclamation point on it? Or all
or
caps?
how many emojis did they use? Right?
Or if they put a laughing emoji, it means everything's okay, right?
Because it helps with context, right?
That's
Truly,
why I hate
though.
it. That's why I hate texting.
But we do. We make so many assumptions. I mean, if someone were to come up to you and say, like, we're not communicating, that means a lot of different things. But we tend to just be like, well, okay. And then they're like, okay, well, we need to work on communicating better. And we're like, okay. And we leave the conversation a lot of times, and that's all that gets said. Well, what did you mean by we're not communicating? How specifically are we not communicating? What do we need to do to communicate better? Like, what is, but we aren't taught to be curious. I mean, I was an educator for 12 years. We do not teach people to be curious. We do not foster curiosity. I mean, it's hard for me to watch parents when the kid's like, why this? What about this? And why that? And eventually the parent doesn't know the answer. So the parent's like, just shut up, stop. And it's like, you have to be okay with not knowing the answer and foster that curiosity in that kid, man. But it really does boil down to asking more questions.
These young kids are so inquisitive today.
Yes.
And even just like teenagers as well. They always want to know the why.
Yeah.
And a lot of managers or leaders or parents don't know the why, or they know the why, but they don't want to explain. I don't know if we're getting lazier or what. We're just trying to hoard information. I mean, I can see that too. I see a lot of business owners that just want to hoard information with other business owners. But together, we're better.
Yeah.
All right. Hashtag better together, right?
Yeah.
And same with kids. We have to give them this information, and we have to be able to communicate. Because even in a husband and wife relationship, the communication to me is the key. And if your kids see that you're not communicating with your spouse or with your whoever it is, then all shit breaks loose and it goes downhill. Yeah. And then the kid just doesn't know how to ask questions, and it just goes on and on. And I've seen people in their 30s that are so shy to ask questions as well. Maybe they were shunned their entire life where people just told them shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that a lot too. Like, I mean, obviously we have our ways when we were younger. We grew with them. And I mean, there's a lot of kids that I've coached that they're scared to talk, and then you see this over time. You probably see when they're around their parents. You see some of that, like some of the controlling, some of the, like, I have a couple dads that are like very like, you didn't fucking do this, you didn't do that in the game. We just talked about it in the damn car, and you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, whoa, like, and then, I've kind of learned to like almost, you have to learn to adapt to each kid.
Yep.
Because you don't know what's going on at home. But I see that in a lot of the kids though too, is just like, man, it sticks with them. I have kids that right now, my 9th grade group, I've had them since they were 3rd graders, 4th graders.
Oh, nice.
So these kids, as they've grown, you see in some of their bad habits, like the kid I was just talking about earlier, he has so many bad habits of the way he communicates. I have another kid that he's a little bit older than the other kids, and he's the most immature kid out of them all. I'm like, what's going on here? But a lot of it is, what is he learning every day? What's going on at home? Things like that. So
learned behavior. Yeah. We teach people how to treat us.
Yep.
And
it's what you allow or what you. Well,
that's
exactly.
absolutely true. Yeah.
So with youth sports, okay. So both my daughters were in softball, and I see a lot of parents forcing their kids to love the sport. And the kid doesn't really love it. They're kind of burned out. You see that often?
They used to be a really hot button for me because I coached high school sports, and I was at a very affluent school in Austin, and most of my athletes played club ball as well. And so they're balancing pre-AP level courses, AP level courses, because they're all, I mean, we had almost a 5.0 GPA as a team, which is unheard of.
Wow.
And on top of that, they're club athletes, and they're like the highest level club athletes, and then they're also playing high school soccer. And I'd have to sit these kids down and these parents down and be like, look, you're going to burn these kids out. And most of them have a hard time even hearing the conversation. But I take it as success when those kids quit club and kept playing for me.
Yeah.
Because they had joy in the game still.
Well,
because Jen, you were a leader.
Yeah. I have the opposite battle. It's where the kids are leaving their school teams to come play with us instead, which is totally cool. I love that. But, in the basketball world, the East Coast has been doing this for years where they don't even play they don't even play high school sports, and they just focus on their club, you know what I mean? It's so crazy. But, it's definitely a battle. I see a lot of these kids. I tell them at the same time, like, dude, don't forget to be a kid.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to get these years back. Y'all think about every day because you're young, but don't forget to be a kid. Don't forget to lose your brain in video games, go to Slitterbond, whatever things around, don't forget to be a kid sometimes. So it's a tough thing.
I mean, I taught communications, and we called it a professional communications class, but really it was a lot of basic skills for freshmen. And I will never forget, like, I think it was like my 7th year in. And like freshmen at where we at, and a lot of schools I'm guessing, they have to take like the pre SAT, right? Like, because the PSAT is your junior year, but then they have them practice at their sophomore year, and they have them practice at their freshman year. And these kids are in my class as freshmen having like straight up anxiety attacks about taking a basically pre SAT. And I'm like, this test means literally nothing, literally nothing. And they're wigging out like about their scores and where they're going to fall. I'm like, not only does it mean nothing, but it's junior level material and you're freshmen. Like, chill. Where is it coming from?
So, Jen, would you rather have that or would you rather have the opposite where the kid doesn't give a shit? Because they're both extremes. Because I've seen it on the opposite end too.
Yeah.
Where kids are like,
You know what's scary about that is a lot of kids are starting to realize, like, I don't need college anymore.
I know. I'm like, I
And
think I would rather
so-
them not care.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
There's
Yeah.
so much anxiety around college, which is an old, outdated, technocratic way of doing life anyways.
Right.
It's not even relevant anymore.
So let's talk about that. When I was younger, I used to tell people, because I mean I was blessed to get a bachelor's degree, but today, and J-Rock, you're absolutely right. College doesn't have the same luster that it did. It's kind of like a high school diploma nowadays, because everybody has a bachelor's degree, and those that have a bachelor's degree, they might not even use that degree in whatever career field they're in.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, there's a kid right now that one of my basketball kids, his brother, he makes $5,000 a month making beats and putting it on Spotify. I mean, he's making $5,000 as he's about
As
to
an
graduate high
influencer, they
school.
call it influencers now, right?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so crazy. Like, so to him, he's just like, what? I mean, why do I have to go to college for? I got everything right here. I can make all the money that I want right here. And he barely leaves his room. His parents say, I'm just like, wow, that's tough.
College is a big business, and they're there to make money.
They are, right? That's so crazy. I kind of freaked out by it. I mean, it's even obviously way more expensive now compared to when I could have gone, y'all were there, whatever the situation was. But it's expensive and it's crazy. Some kids are like, I don't want to go through that debt.
Yeah. Can you imagine having $100K in debt for a basking weave degree that you're not even going to utilize?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that debt.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I got a couple of buddies that they're coaches in Austin and stuff like that, and they see where I'm at in my program. But again, obviously, I've been doing this for 18 years. So like my relationships and bonds and everything that I built over the years, it's there. And with them, they're like, man, you already got it made. You already have your program. I'm like, dude, while you're in college, this is what I was doing, bro. And now I get to, and it's kind of tough, but again, and they're sitting here, they're like, man, I got, college, I got debt, I got college stuff, this and that, and they're 4 or 5 years in still, or 6 years in right now, and they're like, dang, I still got to pay this shit. So it's tough.
Yeah. Often I see experience trumps the degree. Now there are some careers, doctor, lawyer.
Yeah, you
of course,
definitely need that.
Of course.
Yeah, you want to be.
But just the average Joe doesn't need a degree anymore.
Yeah.
You just need some kind of skill, or it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So if somebody that knows you can get you into an industry like this guy that makes the beats or whatever, somebody's going to know him. I mean, you know him.
Yeah.
So now you can vouch for him because you just did. And that shit happens all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I could move right now and go do what I'm doing now here. I could never do that. I don't think I could ever. Even with as much confidence as I have, if I don't know somebody that's going to be in the same business as me, if I were to move out of this town, it wouldn't work. Like, you look at me and you're like, dude, you do basketball? Yeah, right.
Right.
But again, it was those years of building that I think people don't understand sometimes that's what it takes. Like, let's be real, you can leave anywhere, you can do what you do, Johnny, with real estate, you know what I mean? And probably you too, Jen, because you're coaching. But I feel like with me, it's kind of tough in that situation because I don't have a degree. You know what I mean? I can't just go to another school and do that type of stuff. But, it has its ups and downs.
But you got 18 years of experience. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
you got something to show.
If I'm looking for a coach, I see this guy has 18 years of experience, and he's charismatic, and he brings value.
Think so?
I'm gonna probably say, let's give this guy a chance.
Yeah, I would
Alright,
say
I'm
what
outta
would
here.
be. I would say what would be hard is to what would take time. I'm not going to say what would be hard. What would take time is building your rapport with the athletes somewhere else and with the new group of parents somewhere else. I don't think it would be hard for you to find a new place to do what you do. You've got so much experience in history.
Because let's just say you have a degree, right? But your job experience is working at Taco Bell. Okay, and then so I got that guy degree with Taco Bell, and then I got you with 18 years of experience.
Yeah, it's a good example.
Kind of which one would you
go?
Yeah,
touche.
Right?
It's a good example.
Yeah, touche.
I mean, it's just.
I can make a taco. I just want you to know that right now.
Oh yeah.
Just play.
I think I can make you a good
I can
taco,
make you a
too.
good taco.
And I said experience earlier, so experience is the key. So Jen, you have a lot of experience in life as
Yeah.
well. So when you can give this life experience and mentor youngsters, you not only mentor youngsters, you mentioned that you mentor older women.
Adults and men.
So-
I've actually worked with men and women.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about your coaching program.
Well, they say you're the best person to coach someone that you basically used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I mean, when I'm talking to people, I'm always listening for, what are you dealing with? What are you overcoming? What's your BS, your belief systems, right? Like, what's going on back there? And am I the right person? Do I believe I have insight and support that I can make a difference with you, not for you, right? Because it's a coach. A coach is going to lead you, not do it for you. I don't want someone to be my client forever. I want you to get what you need and be able to move on. That is the goal. So I would say it's anything that I'm listening for, anything that I feel like I have dealt with or overcome. Self-worth is a huge one. And I think that's where it comes to men or women. And I think it's we mentioned this when we were just sitting here earlier. It's much less discussed with men to have self-worth issues and being a burden or not being of value or not being of worth. But it's more socialized conversation with women, but we're all dealing with it, and it's so deep and something that can really impact everything that we're doing. I mean, even when I'm first started coaching and I needed to pitch, when it came time to actually put the pitch on the table, like, this is what it costs to work with me. It was like,
Right.
can I ask for that?
But you open up so many windows for people. No matter the price that you put it's priceless.
It is.
Because what you provide, the value that you give to them, and you provide a lot of confidence, not only from yourself, but they can see that you're exuding confidence, and they can probably say, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
And when you have the confidence and you can have the ability to go out and speak to people and build relationships, that's another key word, relationships. It opens up so many windows of opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've been able, just saying hello to people, just saying hi to people, because people talk back. And hey, how are you doing? Hey, nice shoes. And they're like, oh, hey, thank you. I got them at Nordstrom or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, so how long you been here? And it just goes on. And then we become lifelong friends. But a lot of people are reluctant to even go build that relationship or even talk to people.
Yeah.
Because you said they're shy or they're reserved or whatever, but they've never had somebody that shows them their value. And I'm sure you bring that out in them. You show, hey, everybody here has value, and here's what you can bring to the table to exceed standards, not only in your own mindset, but in the mindset of others.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that we do, whether it's private or group or immersive trainings, everything we do has to do with getting to the unconscious, or some people call it the subconscious. They both exist, right? But the other side of the mind.
Right.
The one that's driving the wheel when we're in la la land and not paying attention. That mind.
Right.
You got to get into that mind to uncover and unwind all the stuff that's creating what you have and what you don't have, or getting in your way. And that the worthiness conversation, it's just a story. I grew up years thinking I'm not worthy of love, that I'm not worthy of being heard, and we talked about, I didn't have any trauma.
Was that family, parents, your peers, past relationship with a boyfriend, husband? Where did all that, when was it just mounting up?
Yeah.
Where you felt worthless? It was a continual
It was definitely
thing?
family, and it was just, and again, like, zero malice, because you were talking about earlier, like, how do I talk to my kids? Because sometimes I feel like they're not listening to me.
Right.
Well, most of the time, and I'm going to say we, because this is where I'm at in my mind right now, is like, as kids, we don't feel heard. Right? It's like, oh, well, you did a great job, but.
Right.
It's like, oh, that was great, but. There was always a discount, or it was like time to talk, and like being like, no. And it's like, oh, well, apparently I don't need to say anything because everyone's just going to tell me how to do it anyways.
Right.
And like that went into my career of like having to get so much validation and so many people acknowledging me versus me being able to find acknowledgement in myself and not like requiring it from other people to move forward. Having that self-acknowledgement of like, no, I did a good job. And I can go ask someone what they thought instead of I need someone to tell me if I did a good job.
Right.
So and it's, the mind will do that. The mind will take whatever happened and turn it into this story that just kind of like a snowball just starts to find more proof that that's true.
So the turning point in your life where you had the confidence to know that your voice mattered, was the coaching, the teaching or the coaching the high school young ladies?
Neither. That was when I started my personal development journey.
Okay.
And
Tell us about that.
I started working, I got into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnosis, which is all the things I do now as a coach, as a trainer, immersive trainings, all those things. And I think the biggest, it was also through Landmark, which is a program in Austin. That was my first step into the self-development journey. And I had a lot of realizations there around what I'm talking about with like parents and like how conversations went and how that impacted me. But like I'll never forget specifically one, and it may not even sound related, but I was working with my coach and what we were doing timeline therapy / hypnosis, like kind of a combo. And what came up was that I needed to say that I was beautiful. And I could not say it. And I mean, there was a physical lump in my throat. Like it felt like I had an apple in my throat. And I'm like, just eyes closed, tears just coming down my face. And she's being very patient with me, as you have to be as a coach, right? And and she's just encouraging. And I know, and like it was so fascinating, y'all. Like one mind, and I say one mind, the other, like part of me is going like, it's okay, like say it, you are. It's like you're allowed to say that out loud, right? It's okay. And the other one's like, nope, no. And it was just this literal, physical, internal battle happening in me. It took me almost 20 minutes to finally let it come out of my mouth. But the moment it came out of my mouth, being able to say I'm beautiful out loud to somebody, I don't even know how to fully describe the shift that happened.
So you saying I'm beautiful and the challenge you had saying it, was it more of this right side of your brain because you didn't believe you were beautiful, or you didn't have the confidence to say you're beautiful because you were trying to get validation from somebody else that you thought wouldn't validate that?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's actually both. There was a like, am I allowed to say that? Is that okay? Like, I'm supposed to be humble. I'm supposed to be this. Like, I can't say it. I mean, I felt like a little kid again in that moment. Like, it was fascinating. I've had a lot of moments like that over the last 6 years. So
now the shoe's on the other foot. Now you're that coach. Do you have people say something, not only am I beautiful, but something similar where they tear up and they have trouble saying it?
Oh yeah. Especially when we're finding out what is the actual problem, right? Because we tend to speak to not the problem, which I said earlier, right? And so as a coach, it's being patient enough to find out what is the actual problem, and really and you can tell because as soon as they get there, waterworks, or body shuts down, or they just get silent, and it's just so obvious, but it's also a realization, and then we work through that. When did that start? Where did that come from? And how do we unravel that and let that go so it doesn't have such a hold on you anymore? So
your coaching, is it more one-on-one, or can it be group, or can it be individual, or like an individual couple? Or do you do a little bit of a myriad of all?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of private coaching, which I love. It takes a lot more energy, so it's a little different on pricing structure. But with the trainings I do with my business partner, even though we are out there marketing to business owners and seasoned leaders who have teams, it's because we know that all the stuff that's going on in here is trickling down to circle us back to the very beginning.
Right.
So our immersive trainings are giving you skills, and they're giving you tools and ways to have conversations and build relationships in unique and different ways, teach you how to communicate in ways that we're not taught. But we're also working on you. You're having a personal breakthrough in your stuff.
That's so mesmerizing that you. So when we were in that class that you were teaching, you had us all close our eyes and breathe.
Yeah.
It was about a 10-minute session. It was almost like we were hypnotized.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. We were kind of, yeah. And at the end, you said, "You're all beautiful." No, I'm kidding. But it was very impactful, and it was, I forgot what the breathing method was called.
It's box breathing. It's
box
from the
breathing.
Navy SEALs.
That's right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about that and how that can help you.
So I brought to the table box breathing, which is it's a 4 breath. So you count for 4 as you breathe in, you hold for 4 at the top, you count for 4 on the exhale, and you hold for 4 at the bottom. And it resets the parasympathetic. Like it's resetting the nervous system. It's getting you back in your body. I mean, we live in such a technology and fast-paced where we're defined by how productive we are kind of world. So sometimes we just have to get back in our own body to know what we're even feeling and thinking. I mean, we tend to just yes or no without even actually noticing, like, how do I feel about saying yes or
Impulsive,
no?
yeah.
Yeah. And so the box breathing was intended to, number one, bring you back into your own body. And then number two, take the parasympathetic and bring it down so that you could bring your heart rate down, bring your breathing down, relax. It's kind of like a little mini meditation in the middle of the day. I mean, because it can take like 90 seconds to do. But it's something a lot of different coaches I've talked to or listened to have talked about. And I like this to be a really good one to bring to the table.
Yeah. I love that when you're trying to, faced with a tough decision or tough scenario, you can do the box breathing, and it definitely helps you calm, and it clears your mind, just like meditation. I've never really meditated before, but I'm assuming that's kind of the way it is.
Absolutely.
And it clears your mind of all trivial things, and you just focus on that, on that one
and what
thing.
you're like focusing on, what am I feeling right now? What's
Right.
going on with my body?
Right.
Am I not enjoying slowing down right now? Because I get that all the time. They're like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, right now, your job is to breathe.
Right.
That's your only job. Do nothing else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the breathing part is really. I've seen a lot more athletes are taking that on too, like professional athletes. But like, it's funny you say that though. Like when you said breathing and reading your body, like I teach that when it comes to. I never really like meditated myself, but when it comes to stretching, you'll be surprised how much when you actually breathe in and control your breathing as you stretch, the more the muscle actually expands, and then you're actually able to do more. You know, be more flexible, and I'm gonna have to take that in. I'm gonna have to try out some breathing, some box breathing.
Good one right before a game to get them like recentered
Really?
and focused, so they're not thinking about everything that they don't want to do or don't want to mess up. I'm good on time, by the way. So it's because we tend to focus on what we don't want to happen. And that's going to give us what happens, right? Versus what do I want and where do I want to focus? I want to focus on having a great game. I want to focus on making the sale. Then you have more of a chance for that to happen. Whereas if you're focusing on I don't want to mess up and I don't want to say the wrong thing and I don't want to do the wrong thing, like
It's going to happen.
it's probably going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I see that a lot where people are always thinking about the negative, and the shit happens.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I tell my daughters all the time, if you keep thinking negative that you're not going to pass this test or you're not going to do this, that's all that's in your mind. And you're probably not going to pass the test.
Yep.
So,
There's actually a science behind it.
yeah. So what do they say when you can picture yourself, I forget the term, when you picture yourself winning, picture yourself hitting the home run, picture yourself succeeding. Is it manifestation?
Manifestation.
You're manifesting
Yeah.
the success.
Yeah.
So do you teach that as well?
Oh, hell yes. What people miss about manifestation, though, is they think they're just supposed to focus on it, and then boom, it happens, and then like that's not how
doesn't
it
work.
is. That's not how it
It takes some work.
You still have to take action. And the difference is a couple things. One of them, though, being when you're seeing the future, like when you're seeing what you want to create, you don't just see the picture, like you feel. Like the more you can get in the feels, the more likely it is to happen, right? Because think about how strong a negative emotion is, right? Like I don't want this to happen, and you get all freaked out, and like the emotion is like, wah, and then boom, it happens. Well, put that same level of emotion into something positive. How exciting it will be. What will it look like? What will it sound like? What will it feel like? Like, who's it going to impact? How's that going to feel? And like, get in it. And if you're lucky enough to get like goosies and tears and like feel it, like, then you have a really good chance of that happening, assuming you're also taking action towards it, right? And doing, right? People think the opposite. We live in a world where it's like, I have to be or do. Right? I have to have the money to be happy. I have to have the man to, be happy is usually the most common one, right? But in reality, it's you have to be and do to have.
Right.
When you are being and when you are doing in congruency with what you want to have, it's going to happen a lot quicker.
The mind is a powerful thing.
Ooh.
Your mind, it can set you up for success, failure, or everything else in between. Because they say you got a left brain, a right brain, you got all these things going on. It's mesmerizing.
It is.
You mentioned science earlier. It's science, soul. It's a lot of different things connected all together.
It is. It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
It's really fun to have found something that I find so fascinating, because now I'm getting to do something I truly love, because I'm constantly getting to learn. Like I can't consume enough knowledge. Like I want to read all the books and do all the things, and like we put all the stuff into our trainings too. And like I just got accepted into a year-long coaching program.
Look at you.
Wow.
where I get to do like body work and find out more about that. And like, I'm like, once you find it, it's like, more.
So Jen, have you found your calling?
Yeah.
This is it. This is what you were created to do.
Look
at that.
Look when you asked me. You can't see, but I've got hairs up and goosies.
Goosebumps.
I love your passion, and I love your mindset. Just you're so soothing to talk to, and I can just imagine being in one of your courses, how soothing and how much confidence that you exude onto others. Yeah. It's just it's crazy. When you said 6 years ago that you weren't like this. So you were a shell of what you are today, and you really had no idea, because you probably 6 years ago, I don't know if you had a coach or you had somebody that was mentoring you saying, Jen, you can do it. You're beautiful and all these things. And you're just saying,
A landmark was the first thing. Well, that's not even really true. The first thing was having a little bit of basically a rock bottom moment, we'll call it. Yeah. And one of those smacky in the face realizations of like, okay, you can't keep doing life like this. And that was actually the same year we ended up winning state. That was the first year that I realized like, I cannot keep doing things like this. And it was a lot of things. It was drinking, it was, being promiscuous. It was also in teaching and coaching, it was pushing athletes away, not letting them know me. Because I had that sense of like, well, they're just going to get to know me. I'm going to love them because you can't, how do you not? And then they're going to leave anyways, and I can't deal with that pain and like all those things. And I was like, stop, I'm done with this. And
how did you get over that? I have a lot of issues with, I would say I'm kind of starting to get over it a little bit, but I'll be real, in a very negative way, and I felt like that's one thing that's actually going to push me away from this game, I think.
Tell me, like, specifically, like, what is it that you think is pushing you away? I
don't like that kid. I know that kids, I'm wearing shades right now, but I'm actually tearing up a little bit because I feel like in life I've always gotten close to people and everybody's left me. And so now that I realize how deep I am in this coaching thing, it's going to happen. Yes. They're going to get older. It's part of it, but it's tough to let go, because I tell this to my kids too. I spend more time with them than I do my own family. Yep. And they don't understand that, and it's okay. But I think that's where myself, I have that issue. I've had that issue. Then I'm single, and then I go home. You know what I mean? Like I can go all day with that shit. But that's where I love Johnny for many reasons, and one of the big ones is because he tells me how great I am. Yeah. He and the people that we're around, the mans that own this building, they tell me how great I am, and that's what's helped me out, because I was stuck too, in that I didn't want to let my kids know who I am. I didn't want my parents, the parents, I didn't want them to know who I am. Yep. But it took a lot of that, and I think that's where I'm still stuck. That is the worst part of it all for me. Yeah. Because again, it's something that I've gone through in life, that's there. So it's kind of deep for me too.
J-Rock and I have had a lot of conversations. I've seen him grow, and it's been beautiful to watch. I think my wife and I had a conversation with you
the other day,
this weekend. And she had never really said anything to you, but she did the other night. And she was drinking a little bit, but she wasn't that that inebriated to not know what the hell she was talking about.
And that meant a lot too, Johnny. Like, I went home and I sat there and I was just like, fuck. That's kind of what I needed, man. I'm not going to lie. I needed a lot of that. And in the past year, Jen, that I've been around, like, really deep, considering being like getting closer and hanging out with them more, has changed a lot of my life. And, never knew, they thought I was a little shit at first, and I don't blame them. And who knew that this is where that friendship would go, But these type of people, like yourself, a coach, Johnny's a coach, and he doesn't know it in a way. Maybe he does, but he's a very good coach as well, But y'all, the way that I guess, like I said, I've been researching you as well, the things that you talk about and how motivational you are and how you're coaching people. It's amazing, because again, I'm one of those person that needs that. I needed that, and I didn't know that. because when you're the coach and you're the leader and you're the business owner and you're running your own things, sometimes you're like, well, I don't need to listen to anybody. It's working, But then you get stuck in those things and you're like, shit. Now how do I get out of this hole? But you didn't need anybody, or you didn't,
Yeah.
So I really love what you do though. But I don't know where we came from with all that.
No,
what we're talking about with the kids, about the kids leaving us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me though. Yeah, and it sits with me a lot because I get close to these kids. I have very few kids that I play Xbox with, or we'll go, we game. I'll invite them out to open gym with my friends, things like that. And it's crazy to see them grow, but that's one of the hard parts is letting them go.
Yeah, well, I would say you're not letting them go, right? Like they're moving on to the next chapter of their life, but you're going to be a part of their life forever. I mean, I still have kids that text me or reach out to me.
That's awesome.
I have kids. I used to do lives on Instagram. I haven't done it in a while. And I would have my high school kids would be on my lives, be like, hey, coach, how you doing?
I love that.
That's awesome.
And like they reach out. I mean, I've gotten messages from kids, years afterwards. And one's now a teacher. Well, actually, she was a teacher and a coach. She's moving on into being a mama. But she was like, she wanted to sit down and talk and understand, how to be and what to do. And like, just being, there is still a little bit of a line, right? There's a little line, but you letting them in lets them in both directions. And it catapulted us to the next level. It catapulted me as a coach to the next level. It catapulted the program as the next level. I also had less issues. I mean, I was a varsity coach for 9 years, and I think I only met with a parent who was pissed and angry at me 3 times. I have 3 that I can remember vividly. Like those ones where you're like,
Yep.
But 2 of them though were before I had done the work, and so I'm like, I can remember them real vividly, and I'm like, yeah, I can see why you thought that. One of them, I'm still to this day, I'm like, my God, how did that even happen that way?
They sit with you, right?
They do.
Those
They do, 'cause
situations
you're like,
sit with you.
But I was so transparent in my communication, and I had a very open door policy with parents, with kids, and I hear all these coaches all the time say like, the one thing I won't talk about is playing time, and I'm like, I'll talk to you about playing time, but you have to be willing to hear it. I will talk to you about anything you want to talk about, but here's the thing: you have to be willing to actually talk to me about it, because I will tell you the real truth. Like, I will tell you, currently for me, you're not showing up on the field the way I need you to show up. So what's going on? That's why you're not playing.
Yep.
Is it effort or something else? Because I'm big on effort. You can be so uncoordinated, but if you give me 100% effort or above, you show up to practice early and leave late. That's a cliche. But I see a lot of people that give, because we were in softball, I've seen a lot of people that give a lot of effort, but there was the ones that had more talent, that they always got the playing time. Of course, as a team, you wanna win the game, but at that level, I think it's more developmental.
Yeah.
But I saw a lot of kids get left behind, and they got shunned, and they left the team because they were putting all this effort, but they lost playing time.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to talk about that, and kudos to you for being able to discuss with transparency on that. But effort to me in life is huge. You got to give a shit in everything you do. And if you don't give a shit, it shows.
Yeah.
So kids, to an extent, have a give a shit attitude. Either they give a shit or they don't. And I think that kind of corresponds to, if I was a coach teaching athletes, give me everything you got and your ass will be on the court all the time.
Effort is a huge one. I try to coach that up a lot, especially when they're younger. But by the time they get to the middle school and they've been doing it for 2-3 years, I'm like, man, your effort's great, but your technique and everything's not there. Like,
we can work on that, though.
We can
work.
But then again, that's where the kid's like, man, I've been putting all this effort in, and now you want me to put more? And it's just like, sometimes you get those kids that do it.
Welcome to life.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
And
welcome to the harsh reality of life.
And Jen, it's little things like sprinting out to your position from the dugout. And I see some just lollygag, I'm just walking. And I see there's no sense of urgency on some coaches, no sense of urgency on some players, and it directly corresponds to performance and just the overall culture.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, it comes back to the coach. I mean, again, as a society, we're not taught to get curious. And I mean, I have a perfect example. I'm coaching a kid's sports program at my family's business a couple years ago. First problem is I walked in as if I'm hot shit and they should know who I am. And they're looking at me like, who's this bitch? Like, and so I had to check myself because like I'm 12 years quite decorated as a coach, but these kids are like, we don't know you, to your point about moving, right?
Yeah.
And one kid in particular just would not listen to me when it was time for me to coach, right? Like, and he's just constantly in the background, just starting conversations, driving me bonkers. And I'm like, and I almost did what most coaches would do, which is just get pissed off, sit him out, make him the problem. Instead, during our break, I pull him aside and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, I know we don't know each other very well, but like, what's up? And I also noticed once I got closer to him, he looked really tired. I was like, you look really tired. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, I was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning playing video games. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. He's like, do you love video games? He's like, yeah, I do. I really do. And he starts to kind of pop up because he was expecting me to be like, well, that was stupid. And I can't believe you were up till 2. And instead I was just acknowledging like, cool, what's your favorite game? You know, and then he tells me about the game. And
Fortnite.
Yeah, it was actually Fortnite.
Yeah.
Of course it was. But I followed it up, though. It made me wonder. And I normally would have asked a more open-ended question, but he's 12 and he's exhausted, so I didn't. And I'm like, I'm curious if when I'm coaching and you are someone who's so used to playing video games where you're literally dealing with like 18 things at once and you're exhausted, that when I'm coaching and you have to listen to just me, it's really hard for you to focus in on me. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, I got it. That's okay. That's fair. And he was like waiting to get in trouble. And I'm like, got it. It's hard for you to focus on me when you're usually focusing on 18 things. Like, I get it. So you're starting a conversation because your brain needs to go in all these different directions. And so from that point forward, he was my demoer. So when I was talking, and because he was actually a really great athlete, that's what was frustrating the most.
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, he demoed everything I was saying. So he had to listen to me because he had to do it and he wanted to look good.
Right.
Right. But then when he'd get back in line, guess who was the first one telling everybody to shut up?
Him.
He's like, stop talking.
Yep.
It's like, yeah.
Nice.
He took responsibility and accountability. And to start off with bad decision making from playing Fortnite till 2 in the morning, but he reverted and it
He
turned
got
out
to
okay.
feel heard.
Yep.
I didn't make him wrong for playing
Yeah.
games until 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't make him wrong because he wanted to play games until 2 in the morning either. I'm just like, okay, you like video games. It's hard for you to pay attention to me. You were up till 2. All right, let's make this work.
I need to change my
I was about to say,
parenting.
I was about to say, I would have been the pissed off coach. What the hell are you doing us at 2 in the morning?
So J Rock, you need to change
Jen,
up.
you just showed me.
You need to change it
showed
up
me
a
how to
little
be a
bit.
little
See? You
more
just got
patient with
coached.
these boys.
You got coached by the coach.
It's tough when when I'm the one up playing till 2 a.m. with these
Yeah.
guys, and that's
So
probably
you got to
what the
lead by
problem is.
example, J Rock.
Hey, yeah.
So Jen,
No, that's
in
awesome.
your entire life, would you change anything? You're at the position you're at today. Would you change anything that you faced or experienced in your life?
I can't say that I would. I really thought about that question, and I'm like, I really can't say that I would because I have no idea where I would be right now. And I know all the people who I have impacted, and I know all the change and transformation I have made to this point, both from teenagers to adults to my own family. And I don't want to screw with that. Like, I don't know what small change would have made a massive ripple effect
Right.
in a direction that wouldn't have been now. You know, I have a lot of clients and students that come through our programs like, God, if I'd only known this when I was 20 something. And I'm like, you can do that to yourself. You can sit here and wish you knew all that, or you could just take on like you know it now, and you still have so much life to do something with what you know now.
Let's put this into perspective. So you coach one individual, and you change the whole trajectory of the family
Yeah.
just with your sessions, and it's whatever trajectory they had before now has changed and pivoted into something completely different because of Jen Hardy.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever thought about that?
I haven't had it said it to me that way, so like, yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
letting that kind of sink in.
you change
right now.
generational mindsets.
Yeah.
Because if they have confidence when they're young and then they have kids, they teach in confidence. But if they don't get confidence till they're 40, the people below them, their family members below them, have missed out on all these different opportunities. So coaching and programs that you have are so vital to generational mindset.
It really is.
So same thing with you, J-Rock. You're teaching a foundation here. You're showing them accountability, responsibility, all these different things. And now when they get to, high school or college or whatever, they're always going to remember you.
Yeah.
And you're showing them love.
Yeah.
And you're showing them acceptance, and you're showing that people don't run away and leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I mean, and that's the main reason why I do this, though. I mean, I remember, again, I started coaching at 16. I was still in school. And I wanted somebody to coach me. And I couldn't get that. So I'm like, man, you need help coaching? Y'all need help? Okay, I'll help y'all coach. And it just went from there.
Yes.
And I wanted to do something that wasn't given to me, and so that's why I absolutely do this.
I think that's where most people start. That's why I started.
Yeah.
I wanted my teenager, like when I was teaching and coaching, I wanted them to feel heard, seen, and known in a way that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And it's just.
It's awesome. We do great things.
We do great things.
And I hate to be that person, but it's tough to find it's hard for me to be happy with the things that I do sometimes. You know what I mean? And that I figured out that that's okay. But at the end of the day, like, again, it's about being around those good people. It's about getting, like, I've never met Jay Shetty. I've never met Gary Vee. I've never met Eric Thomas, but those are my mentors.
Absolutely.
Because those are guys that I can go to and turn on, or, and I have the ability to do that. And that's why I tell my kids, you have the ability to put your phone down and go put some extra shots up. You have the ability to go listen to that speaker, that teacher, that whatever, But sometimes they don't, or whatever the situation is. But that's what I've learned is, like, that's what you need to go to sometimes. Because you may need more of it today,
That's right.
So that's kind of where it's at. So again, I applaud you on what you do.
Well, thank you.
You're
Back
good
at
coaching,
you.
So we're coming to a close here, but before we do that, what's your biggest weakness, even today?
My biggest weakness is still, like, I still want to save people too much.
Can you save everybody?
No.
It's tough because
Yeah.
you do want to save everybody.
And it's like, because there's coach and then there's like save, right? Like, I want to coach and I want to support. I don't want to save. But I'll be damned if sometimes you get people in front of you and you're like, let me help you.
Yeah.
And they're not ready. And they're not ready.
Yeah.
And I still sometimes have to catch myself being like, they're not ready. Quit it.
Yeah. That's one of the toughest things. I mean, I say it all the time, man. You can't save everybody.
No.
There, some people they'll get saved later on.
Yeah.
Or some people just fizzle out. It sucks to even say that.
Yeah.
But it's a reality, because then I'll stress myself out trying to save everybody.
Well, that's the thing, though, is people don't need to be saved either. That's our interpretation. They don't need to be saved. They need.
Like from bad decision making, from living in their car, those kind of things is what I mean. I mean,
Okay.
it's teaching them a lesson.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer, you have to have these hard lessons to make you see the light, or to allow you to see a different perspective. Because some people, they're come from a bad home life, and they think that it's okay to do all these bad things: drugs, stealing, kicking dogs, doing all these different things. But I think those, from my perspective, I like to save those people, because I see people back, I'm from the south side of San Antonio. I see people back there doing a lot of crazy stuff sometimes. I'm like, man, that guy has so much potential. And it's not only in San Antonio, everywhere, because I've traveled a lot of places. I'm like, man, she can do a lot better. He can do a lot better, just in the decision-making process that they have.
Yeah.
And I get to know him a little bit. I'm like, dude, do you know how much potential you have if you just try? If you get out and just meet people, you know how much more your business will flourish? If you just hire a marketing manager, if you just hire this, and it's just, and I heard you say it in one of your videos, relational versus transactional. Big difference. And you're a relational person. That means you have a relationship, and it's ongoing. It's not just, okay, I'm your coach for this session, all right, and then I'll see you, and never want to see you again.
Yeah.
That's bullshit, and we should never do business like that. If you consider yourself a coach, you care, and you're into this person or whatever your session is.
Yep.
And I think we should do that in life as well. Less transactional, more relational.
Yep.
And I think the world will be a better place.
I agree.
Because you'll influence people, impact these people, and you'll influence them to do the same, pass it along. What's the thing now when you buy somebody coffee behind you in Starbucks? Pay it
Pay
forward.
it forward.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
pay it forward.
Pay it forward, pay it back, whatever. But
Yeah.
just don't be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
It's pretty simple. Stop
Yeah.
being an asshole.
And just have more conversation with people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to force mentorship
Yeah.
No.
because some people force mentorship and they come across as an arrogant fool. I'm sure you've seen that in your experience, and same with you.
People hate advice.
Yeah, people that are always trying to, hey, dude, you can do better. I'm going to tell you how to do better. You're like, who is this schmuck? This guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. But I know I said that was the last question. One more. What's Jen Hardy? What's your legacy?
I want my legacy to be where it's already headed, which is waking the self up in people. Waking people up enough to recognize, like, you can have the life you desire. You can be who you say you want to be. You can have what you say you want to have. You can do what you want to do. There is no one stopping you but you. And I believe that legacy is what you so graciously shared with me, of like that generational continuation of people making new choices and different choices, that it's going to have that ripple effect. Every person they come in contact with, through their family, through their business, through everything. So I hope I'm part of a movement that continues to help people recognize, like, you have the power to have your life go the way you want.
Absolutely. So Jen, where can we find you?
Oh my gosh, all the places. Well, Motive Action now, because I'm doing motiveaction.academy is our main site. But we have Motive Action on Facebook, and you have Jen Hardy on Facebook. I have the business page, which is the Jen Hardy on Facebook. Instagram is still _Jen Hardy. I do still have my website, thejenhardy.com. So the Jen Hardy is a good one to search and find.
You see a lot of videos on there, a lot of ways to contact you.
Yeah.
It's a pretty engaging site. So
I appreciate that.
whoever made that website is good on him.
He did a good job. Yes, that is one of my friends. Like, oh my God, his name just disappeared. I went to say his name, and his name just Edward Leos.
Edward Leos. Great job, Edward.
Good job, Ed. But then LinkedIn, also all the places. And I mentioned to you, like, my business partner and I are going to start a podcast, YouTube/podcast. Hopefully this last quarter we'll actually get it out there. It'll be Life by Choice, which is also what our main 4-day immersive program is called. And so it kind of seamlessly blends together beautifully, and really connects to what I believe, right? Life is your choice, life by choice. So,
Hell yeah. Looking forward to watching that and listening to it, and we'll be able to find it where?
Well, I'm sure we will do a huge social media blast once that, but it'll be
Spotify.
on YouTube, and then it'll be on all the
Okay.
all the podcast channels.
Video or audio or both?
Both.
Both.
Very awesome.
Video on YouTube, and then we'll have audio on all the podcasts.
Maybe J-Rock and I can be guests on your show.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Who knows?
I'd
Very
love to
awesome.
have you guys be
Yeah.
guests. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
So Jen Hardy, thank you for being a guest on our show.
Yeah.
It's been awesome engaging with you and talking to you about life and mentorship and motivational things, and just having a damn good mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset's the
I love
key,
that.
decision making's the key, and just surround yourself with positive people.
Absolutely.
That's make yourself known in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be okay as a business owner and just as a parent and anybody else.
Yeah. Be of service.
So those of you watching, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and we have a website, socialplugmedia.net. And we also have we're on Threads. That's the new thing. Do you have that?
I don't have Thread. I don't understand any of it.
I haven't even clicked on it. Johnny says that's all Johnny.
I always
over there.
say Threads, but I'm on Threads. I think so. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon,
Elon are
they have something going
having a
on.
little battle.
But I heard today, I don't know if this is true or not, that Zuckerberg's backing down from the fight.
What?
I don't know.
He probably doesn't want to hurt him, bro. That's probably what it is. He doesn't want to be responsible for messing up that awesome brain of.
Yeah, and that's a whole other podcast.
A whole other podcast.
So if you're interested in being a guest on the show or being a sponsor, you can reach out to us at any of our social media outlets, including socialplugmedia.net. We'll be waiting for you. We'd love to have you. And we are ordinary people talking about extraordinary things, and our guests are very ordinary, and they're very, very extremely extraordinary, including you, Jen.
Thank you.
We love you. We love what you do. And for the rest of you, we are unplugged from the Social Plug Podcast, and we will see you soon. We love you guys.